We are live.
Good evening, everybody. Confirm you can hear me.
We are live.
Good evening. Apologies to everyone for starting out by this time. Good evening, everybody. All right, so I welcome everybody to this masterclass, and I'm sure we are available for the first one that held with Mr. Uche Edwin. All right, so today's masterclass is going to be very different, and we have our tutor here with us, who is on the call, Mr. Ahmad Ibrahim. So quickly, I'll just introduce Mr. Ahmad Ibrahim because we wasted a lot of time so that he can start, his class. So Mr. Ahmad Ibrahim um, is the DPI lead of Data Science Nigeria. He's a pharmacist that turned data scientist with a passion for driving innovation through data and AI. He's a leader in harnessing technology to create impact with expertise in digital public infrastructure, DPI, healthcare, and cutting-edge AI solutions. A graduate of pharmacy from University of Ilorin, Nigeria, he has evolved into a skilled project manager and data scientist known for his precision, creativity, and ability to architect systems that drive meaningful change. Mr. Ahmad brings a unique blend of technical expertise and leadership acumen to the table. So can we welcome Mr. Ahmad Ibrahim? Mr. Ahmad Ibrahim, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's nice to be here. My name is Ahmad Ibrahim. Like Benedict said, I'm the AI DPI lead at Data Science Nigeria, and I'm glad to be here with you guys this evening. Hey, so Benedict, you need to make me host so that I can share my screen and we can get the class started.
All right.
Oh, okay, I can share my screen. I can share my screen. I can confirm I can share my screen now. Please confirm we can all see my screen. Please confirm you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. Thank you. So, welcome once again, everyone, to this very hands-on and very technical masterclass. We are going to be focusing on building our first AI-powered project, and I'll be taking us through a series of steps. The first one is I will introduce the project we are going to be doing, and I will explore the project notebook. I'm sure we are all familiar with Jupyter notebooks and how we are able to write and manage and run scripts inside cells. Well, today I'm telling you, we are leaving cells, we are leaving the very comfortable environment of Jupyter Notebook, and we are going to be coding from the beginning to the end. We are going to be building our own app. We will start by setting up our working environments, and then we'll start coding full time. And by the time we are done, we are going to test the application, we are going to access, and we are going to run the app and see that it works as we want it to be. Then if time permits, we are going to be deploying the app to the cloud, and everyone in the meeting will be able to access and interact with the application we built for a while. And then we are going to go to question and answer. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to be starting with introducing the project we are going to be working on. It is this research paper that was written earlier in the year by myself and a couple of other teammates, right? And it is titled Retrieval Augmented Generation Meets Local Languages for Improved Drug Discovery. Sorry, for improved drug information access and comprehension. Basically, what we have done here is we have tried to solve the problem of medication error, right? Not knowing the right dose and not knowing when to stop or when to continue using a medication and not knowing the amount of dose you should use and any type of issues you can think of regarding your health and well-being, particularly relating to the drugs themselves that you are actually consuming. We have tried to capture all those problems. And we have tried to use an AI-based system to solve the problem. So in this meeting, I will just hide the video. Sorry, give me a minute. I'm trying to do away with the Zoom. Yep, I'm good now. So this is the notebook for the paper. This is a paper we can all access, by the way. The title, you can just Google the title and you'll be able to access it. And the paper itself contains link to the GitHub, which I'm going to open now. This is the GitHub. Of course, we can all come here. It is all publicly available. We can all come here. We can all interact with the application. Can all check the notebook and we can all see it. But basically, I'll try to quickly walk us through the notebook, right? So of course it was written on Kaggle, and we can see we basically imported the stuff we are going to be needing and then install some of the libraries we are going to be using, including LangChain, ChromaDB, Sentence Transformer, StickUDM for timing, and LangChain community. I'm sure we're all familiar with that, so I'm not going to bore us with what they do. But basically, the notebook starts by fetching the data and breaking the data into chunks. Now, you may not be familiar with BNF. The BNF, or the British National Formulary, is a drug information book. It is very, very thick. It contains a lot of information about all the necessary information you need for drugs themselves, right? To interact with patients as a pharmacist, or in fact as a medical doctor, or anybody that's interested in the drug information. Then the MDEX is Nigeria's version of BNF, and it is more palatable to the Nigerian audience because a lot of information has been stripped out and just focused around the essential medicines index of Nigeria. And then the last is the pharmacotherapy textbook. We use the ninth edition. It basically gives us information about how certain health conditions need to be treated and with which drugs. So it's called pharmacotherapy. That field is called pharmacotherapy, and the textbook is a pharmacotherapy handbook, which we brought as another data source to be able to, augment what we already have from the British National Formulary and the MDEX. So, of course, the code continues to break down all the entire books into chunks. And then for BNF, we had 11,939 chunks. For MDEX, 3,009 chunks. And for the pharmacotherapy handbook, we have 2,536 chunks. We then continue to, the chunks of text, right? These are like 1,000 tokens per text, I think. Yeah, sorry, 1,024. So that's 1 bit of token per chunk, right? We continue to use this to create a vector database, right? We use vector database. We use ChromaDB because it is completely open source. It does not require you to pay, and it does not require you to put it in the cloud. You can easily put this in the local system and use it. So we used it to create the vector database. So vector database basically just hosts the embeddings, right? So the text, of course, LLMs are not trained with text data. The text have to be converted to vectors before the models are able to understand it, right? And the model that we use for the embedding is the InfFloat by Microsoft, right? The multilingual E5 large. And with that, we were able to convert the text from these textbooks to the ChromaDB database that has all the vectors that we want. And in order to add more context, I will try and search for the textbook so that you know what we are working with. The British National Formulary, the BNF, right? So this is the current version is 73, I believe. And if you scroll down or if you go to images, you can see how the book looks like, right? In real life, it has versions for each of the years, right? The index is also similarly formatted, similar to this, but more focused on Nigerian context, like I mentioned earlier. So now these books have been converted into vector DB. And then with the vector DB, we have been able to, just store the vector DB. And when you have a dictionary or a database of vectors, you can basically do similarity search, right? So which is what we did here. So with similarity search, you can search for something like a question like what is the dosage of paracetamol? And what it does is it brings out related information to the information that you are looking for, right? That's similarity search. And as you can see, we get from the BNF source, you see every 4 to 6 hours, you are supposed to, just information that are related to you. For example, you see child of 8 to 9 years, you want 360 to 375 milligram every 4 to 6 hours, maximum doses of 4 per day. And then for child 10 to 11 years, information related to how to actually use the paracetamol. And if I'm sure we are all familiar with paracetamol by the way. So for 500 milligram is 1 tablet of paracetamol. So a child of 10 to 11 years can use 500 milligram or 1 tablet of paracetamol every 4 to 6 hours, right? And if we scroll down to if you scroll down inside, this is trying to like read information directly from the that are stored as vectors. So it may not be human readable as you would want it to be. So this is from the BNF, right? Another source is the MDEX. You can see source MDEX here. Child under 3 months, there is a C note below. 3 months to 1 year, you can use 60 to 125 milligram because paracetamol may not be recommended for children under 3 months. So all those books contain things like see notes below, right? And then you see similar information here, 3 months to 1 year, we can see 6 to 12 years, you can use 500 milligram of paracetamol. And it is related to what we, of course, saw in the MDEX earlier, when we are between 12 to 15 years, you can use between 480 to 500 milligrams. So like I said, this is the British National Formulary, which is like the standard for the whole world. And then we have the Nigeria one, which is the MDEX that has been converted to the Nigerian context, right? And then, of course, the pharmacotherapy handbook, we have a similar output inside or somewhere here, but we are not going to dwell on that. So now that we have that already, we can now proceed to you know, bring in our large language model. For the paper, because the paper is quite a bit old, we use GPT 3.5 Turbo. Of course, you can use any large language model here because what we need them to do is synthesize this large information that we have fetched from the vector database, right? Once to synthesize it into a body of text that is easily palatable, that is easily readable by people, right? That you can read like you are reading a normal text and not just these arrows, and then you are reading things that may not be, completely smooth to read. So I am going to show us the output of the large language model later and compare it to what we have here. Okay, I am seeing comments about the screen not being clear, so I'm going to try and enlarge this. But basically, this, like I said, this repo is open source, so you can go there, you can fetch it, and you can go through the notebook. I'm just trying to set the tone of what we are going to be building, right? And then I'm going to, like I said, we brought in the large language model to basically do synthesize the information that we got from the similarity set, which is what you see here. You see that the retrieved information is being passed as the similarity results. And what you get is this output, right? So if you ask a question like, what is the recommended dose for amoxicillin? You get human readable language and easily smooth language, like the recommended dose for amoxicillin varies depending on the type of infection. You see, this is the information that you are going to be getting from a medical doctor, right? So for respiratory tract infection, you are getting bone and joint, urinary tract infection. You are getting information about the drug that you actually asked for. You can set another question, what is the right drug for tinnitus? Tinnitus is ringing ear, right? So here you can see that for tinnitus, you can see you use Ginkgo biloba, which is of course available in all pharmacies around. And then they give you the dose, and then it's not, they'll tell you more information like it may not be suitable for children under 12 and all of that. And the source is mainly from the MDEX, right? So basically, we have seen, basically tried to show us what the paper has done. And this is basically the summary of the paper. So that's one part. And then the next part is that, okay, we have gotten this information, but we need it in local languages so that people are able to read it and people are able to hear or do whatever they want with it, but in their local language, right? Which is where we now brought in another model to translate it down under in the notebook, right? And for that, you can see we used Facebook NLLB model, no language left behind, 200M. This is the model we use. It. Of course, it is open source as we try to make sure that everything we have done with the work is open source so that people can go there and, interact with it as necessary. So we use this for translation, and then at the end of the day, when you see when you pass the right information that you have fetched earlier, don't forget the English text we got earlier. When we pass it to the translation model, we're able to convert it into local languages as we want. For example, we are able to convert it to Yoruba. So what the question was, let me see, iye tí a ṣe ìṣèdúró fún amoxicillin yàtọ̀ pẹ̀lú ọjọ́ orí, right, which is what we read earlier about from the English part. So that's basically what we are going to be doing this evening. We are going to be working with this complete notebook. We are going to be building this into an application that anybody on the web can interact with. So we are leaving our notebook. We are going to be building our own application. I hope you guys are very clear with what we are going to be achieving this evening. So the first part we are going to be starting with now is I'm going to talk about the APIs that we are going to be using. Of course, it will be nice to, set up the environment and put GPUs and everything, but because time does not permit and we want to quickly build what will take basically a couple of weeks, to develop into product, we want to rush through it in 1 hour, 30 minutes. We are going to be using APIs to pass and make our work easier. The first API that we are going to use is the Pinecone API. If you are not familiar with Pinecone, earlier I mentioned that we used Vector DB, and Vector DB is basically Vector DB is basically the the database that contains your vector of text, right? So this is the drug information. As you can see, it's called drug info Wazobia because of the 3 Nigerian languages. And basically, instead of having this stored in the Chroma DB locally, like I said, we did during the development of the project, we used Chroma DB. Here we are going to be basically using Pinecone, a DB that is stored in Pinecone, so that we can call it via API and it's going to supercharge our work this evening. For the translation, we are going to be also using another API called the speech API. And it basically allows us to also do the translation part. We are going to be doing the translation part using the cloud. So it's going to make our work faster and not, we are not going to be, fetching Facebook's model and, using it to build a product, right? So I'm going to also use the OpenAI API, right? Because we need a large language model. Once again, it will be nice to use open source. So I'm basically telling you that you can build this entire project that we're going to be building and working with this evening. You can literally do everything open source. You can literally build the entire project on Google Colab, on Kaggle, wherever you want. But you have to spend a lot of time to get the models, ensure the models are working and tuned as necessary and all of that. So I am going to start now. I hope you guys are ready to embark on this journey with me. Of course, when you want to start a new project, you want to, of course, create the repository first. So I'm going to be creating the repo first. And I'm going to be creating a new repo. I'm going to be calling it the name of this program, 3MTT Masterclass, so that I'm going to also be making it public so that at the end of the masterclass, anyone can get access to this and work with it. So 3MTT AI masterclass. I'm going to be just putting class. I'm going to just leave it as that. We are basically built the repo. Once again, it is public. Anybody can come here and fetch and try and go through the entire code base later after the entire masterclass. So now we have this. I can copy the link and then we can move into the environment that we are all used to into the environment that we all love, our IDE, right? And I'm very familiar with, I use for my work, for all my work, I use what's it called now? I use VS Code. But of course, the ID that you use depends on you yourself and which or your taste. But I prefer to work with VS Code, and I'm going to clone the repo by using the code we are all familiar with, git clone this, and then we have our 3 entity masterclass. And of course, it is an empty repo because it is completely new. So I'm going to be going into the repo by moving into the 3 entity masterclass. So I am here already. Now, there are some applications called project manager, like project. There are some Python libraries basically that help you to fast charge your Python projects. One of them is UV. You may also be more familiar with Poetry. Some of you may be familiar with some other libraries, but for me, I use UV. You can check it out. You can easily just search it by online by saying UV, searching for UV Python. And basically, I'm going to use UV to initiate the project. So I'm going to be doing UV init. And basically, what it will do for me is it is going to initiate an entirely new Python project inside this environment, inside the repository that we just fetched right now, right? So I have initialized a new project called 3MTT Masterclass. I'm going to go into the PyProject file and I'm going to add some description like our first AI project, right? And I'm going to be saving this. So what this will allow me to do is it's going to basically, as you can see, when I did UV init, it created the Python version and logged it to 3.13, which is of course the latest Python version that I have on my PC. It created the main script for us, which of course we are going to be overwriting later as we progress. And then it also created the PyProject.toml file for us, as you can see, which is going to basically contain all the necessary details about our project. And then you also initialize with a README, which we are going to, of course, fill later as part of our work. So I'm going to still try and zoom in a bit so that it's become a bit bigger for everyone that is following, because I'm still seeing complaints around the size of the screen. So if you are following from a mobile device, of course, it is not going to be clear. You have to move to a larger screen, or maybe a tablet could help. But basically, the next thing is to set up our project and set up our environment. Now, this is where you start doing stuff like Python make pip install, or Python, the regular code to create your Python environment, right? So pip, or you do Python make venv. But using I could easily run this, but using program managers like UV allows me to automate a lot of things. So it fast charges my work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding the requirements for this project that we are working with. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do UV add. And when I do that, it's going to basically create a virtual environment for me. I install the necessary library. So I'm going to add the like fast API. We need fast API to host our application. So fast API, we want OpenAI library, we want Pinecone, we want Python.env, because of course we are going to be creating environment variables. We want requests, we want Python multiparts, see, multiparts, we want requests. Okay, I've done requests. We want speech. We want Streamlit because I plan to also use Streamlit to deploy the app later before we push to the cloud. We want Touch for managing our large language models. We want Transformers, of course, and we want UVCon. And what this is going to do, like I said, is going to create an environment variable, and it's going to install all of this inside the virtual environment. Sorry. So I'm doing that. As you can see, the virtual environment has been created for me. And you are also seeing that. So there's an issue with multi-path, so I'm going to just remove it and it's going to be installed as necessary later. So as you can see, it's going to be adding the libraries that we are installing. It's going to be adding them to the dependencies folder, right? So I don't need to start creating my own requirements.txt and then Python run requirements.txt and all those things. I'm not going to be doing that. UV allows me to skip those processes like I mentioned earlier. So right now, what I am doing is I'm installing the necessary libraries, Python libraries that we are going to be using for the project. And once this is done, we can now start building our application, right? And while this is going on, I can start to basically build the, how do I call it, the scaffold of the project, right? The directories and the necessary folders. Once again, we are not working with, the Jupyter notebook that you are comfortable with. Remember, we are building an actual project that can be deployed in the cloud. So I am going to um, create the folders that are going to host the codes. So it is called project scaffold, but basically they are going to be the directories where we have our code and we have our code base in chunks so that we're able to manage anywhere there is issue, right? So I'm going to go and create the first one. I'm going to make sure I'm inside the masterclass directory and I'm going to create a folder. I'll start with the first folder, which is the utils, which will basically contain some of the visibility of the screen is not about it's okay, so you can increase the resolution of the screen. I'm sorry if you are not able to see my screen. I cannot increase it further. I cannot increase the sizes of the stuff for that because it is going to once again affect the way I code. But let's see if I can work with this and hopefully it will not affect it. I hope anyone that is struggling to see the screen can basically get this to work better for them. Also, I would like to mention that once again, if you are following from YouTube, you can also increase the quality of the YouTube video so that you're able to see the screen more clearly. So I've created the utils folder. I'm going to now create the models folder that will contain the code that will host our models. I'll make sure it is once again inside the 3MTT master class. I'm going to create another folder that will contain our backend, which is going to be the code that is handling our backend. Okay. Oh, I mistakenly moved the models part into the virtual environment, which is why it was hidden. So once again, we need after creating the backend folder, I'm going to be creating our app folder that will contain some of the other code. So basically, this is the entire code base that we are going to be working with. Now we are going to start writing our code. And like I said earlier, I'm going to start by creating the uh, virtual environment because we need to connect to the APIs, right? So for the virtual environment, I'm going to create .env, right? And the .env, of course, has to be inside the 3MTT or the environment that we are going to be working with. Now, in order to save time, I'm going to just grab the, I'm going to try and grab the, I want to try and grab the environment variables from my laptop where I've already stored it so that I can easily do this and continue with the project. So I hope you guys online that are struggling to see the screen, I hope you have been able to easily follow up now. So I'm going to drag this into the project here. It is here. So these are API keys to access all the services that we need. Of course, I'm not going to be pushing this to GitHub, and I know that I have exposed some of the keys, so I'm going to delete this after. So you don't need to spend your time to copy this down or whatever. I'm going to be removing them later. For this, I'm now going to create a .git ignore. It is very, very important so that we do not mistakenly push important stuff to the cloud. So I'm going to make sure the first one is .env. I'm going to make sure the second one is .venv so that we save on bandwidth. And once I do that, you see that these have been grayed out. That means they are not going to be pushed to the cloud, right? So of course you can see, as you can see, my autocomplete is basically just showing me and trying to make me correct everything that we don't need to push to the cloud. So this is okay. So I'm going to close the git ignore now, and then we are going to start writing the code for the entire project. So the first code I'm going to write, the first code I need to write is basically the one that is going to be working with this virtual environment. Sorry, that is going to be getting the environment variables from the .env file. I'm going to call it uh, config.py, right? And what it is going to do is it's going to be connecting directly with the environment variables and bringing them into the uh, project, the larger project body. That way, whenever I go into another environment or whenever I write any other code, I can use the .m or the load environment variable that we are going to be describing later. I'm going to be able to call it, and that way, anywhere from inside the code base, I'm going to get access the to the environment keys, environment variables that I've created, right? So I'm going to write a function that will be loading the environment variables. I'm going to be calling it load.env. And basically, I'm going to accept this. I'm going to remove all of this. Autocomplete can be helpful, but of course, you also want to use it sparingly. So this function is just going to be returning the virtual environment variables so that we're able to use them, right? So I'm going to let the function only require key and then key. And okay, I mean, I've made a mistake, typographical error here. Load.env cannot be resolved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically make sure that the .env is installed. So I can check the PyProject file to see what is installed, and I can see python.env is actually installed, which means that our file should be the Python, the environment is supposed to be loaded and it's not supposed to get this import could not be resolved error. So I'm going to also do another config file here, which I'm going to call helper. And what it is going to be doing is that it's going to be formatting the responses that we get from the model later. So I'm going to call it helper.py. And I'm going to basically just put one single function here. I'll define format response that is going to take the query that is sent by the user and also going to be getting them back. So this is basically all that is necessary for it to be there. But I want this to be questioned since we are working with medical related stuff. It is question and not query. And once we have that, it's going to basically just be the function that will help us to get the response and query, the response and the question formatted just the way we would want it formatted, right? And then once you have done this, I'm going to save it. I'm also going to save this. And if you have done anything around, if you have done any project around the object-oriented programming, you know, and you know how Python modules work, you know that we can call any of these files, any of these scripts, we can call them from anywhere in the project or in the code base just by directly calling the file themselves. And we can load, for example, we can load this .env inside our project just by directly calling it from the config file. So once again, I'm going to save this. I'm going to, so we are done with the functions that are going to be helping me to get things done. So we are now going to move to the models part. And in the models, I'm basically going to be connecting to the APIs. Like I mentioned, we are going to be using GPT models, and I'm going to write the functions to help us get the models directly from from OpenAI. So I'm going to call it GPT model.py, and what it's going to be doing once again is get the stuff for us. So we want to import OS so that we can directly call any of the functions or any of the stuff that we have created earlier. I'm going to import OpenAI because we are using OpenAI model. Okay, so I'm going to be activating the environment first so that we stop getting these issues. And okay, so use the environment. I want to navigate to .venv and use this to activate the environment. And hopefully this is picking up the environment and we can, or of course, we can also enter interpreter path, find. So I'm going to be doing 3MTT masterclass.venv, select interpreter. Okay, first, right. The interpreter path. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fetch the environment path. So I want to basically find the location of the environment so that I'll stop getting the import errors because we already have the imports. We already have all of them. We already have all of them set. So it should be inside the venv. It should be inside the scripts, and it should be the Python interpreter is here. So we are going to select this interpreter, and of course it has loaded. And when we save, the issue is gone, right? So that's basically what I've been trying to do. So we want to now, okay, we want to get OpenAI model, but before we even do this, we can have another script here called translate.py that is going to be getting the translation done later. But once again, let's proceed step by step and go to from utils.config, we want to load the .env, which we basically, this is not a Python module. We basically defined it by ourselves earlier. This is the file config. This is the config file, and this is the function we are loading now. So I'll also go back to the code and continue. And we are going to be getting the API key. The API key is OpenAI API key. So I'm going to continue that. And I'm going to now set our client, which is OpenAI dot clients, and the API, we are going to be passing the API key to the client. So API key equals to API key, which we have fetched from the environment variables. And then we are now going to be defining a function that is going to be interacting directly with OpenAI to make sure that our system prompts, our system prompt and our system settings are actually directly fetched. Now, remember, I said earlier that we are adapting this notebook, so I don't need to, create the stuff, but I don't need to start writing some of the system prompts by myself. So when I get there, I'm going to basically just go to the GitHub notebook from earlier. Like I said, it is open source, it is directly available to anybody, and I'm going to copy the 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 prompt that was used. So, sorry, I was wondering what was going on. So I'm basically here setting the parameters of the ChatGPT generates the model we are using. I am basically setting the parameters here so that I can just directly interact with it. For this, we are going to be using GPT-4, but we can also use GPT-5. But of course, we are all familiar with the fact that GPT-4o is well tested and everybody is very comfortable with it just before OpenAI brought GPT-5. So we are going to be using the stable model that we know everyone is familiar with. And then we want to also make sure that the language that is going to be returned by the model, irrespective of the person's or the users, irrespective of the users, irrespective of the user's message, we want to make sure that it is always returning English. I'm going to probably dial down my autocorrect, autofill later I can um so that I can, have more control over what I am basically doing. So, like I said, I'm going to basically remove all of this and write them out myself by going and fetching it directly from inside the notebook. And basically, we all know the importance of system prompts, right? We all know that they are extremely, extremely important. So you want to be able to fine tune them as much as necessary, which is why I don't want to go through all of that. That's why I want to just copy this and use it directly. So uh, I'm going to be copying the system prompts and I'm going to be using it for my work. And with this, I can even just copy all of this since it is directly what we are going to also be using. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to return back into the notebook and put it here. So now we have defined the system prompt. We have, of course, the prompt is going to be working with the context, which we are going to, of course, set and define later, right? So this is context. It is currently none, but of course, the context, once again, will be fetched directly from the knowledge sources. Basically, if you go through the the system prompts here, we are telling the system that you are a highly intelligent summarization expert with expertise in pharmaceuticals and drug information. You have been provided with multiple pieces of data from reputable sources regarding the following inquiry, right? And then we get the user's information, right? The user inquiry and the context that are fetched from our vector database, right? Your task is to carefully analyze all the information and synthesize a clear and concise response, right? So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to continue by basically we have called the GPT that we are using. We are using chat completion because that's the necessary endpoint. The model has been defined up as GPT-4o, so we are calling model and we are setting the system, the rules, and then we are using temperature of 0.7. You can fine tune this as much as you want, but 0.7 is a good number to work with. It's basically temperature. If you are not familiar, temperature helps large language model control the hallucination rate, right? And then max tokens, we want 500 because we want to answer questions directly. We don't want to generate a large body of text that the users are now going to have to spend a lot of time to read. So once we do this, we are basically done with the basically the GPT model. So we now need to pass the responses that are gotten from the model. So I'm going to say GPT response equal to response dot choices, and I also want to, that means it is going to select the first choice from the list of choices that, large language models get. And if you are wondering why we are doing this because when large languages work with probability, and they also don't just turn out just one response. They have multiple responses that are arranged by the degree of accuracy. So 0 is the first spot, which has the highest accuracy, and we just want to get that. And once we get that, we want to strip the content so that we don't have unnecessary verbose information there. We just have the final clean response. And then we are going to make sure that the language is also the language that we want it set to. Now, I understand that we have not set some of the local languages now. Well, so I'm going to basically return to this when necessary. So I'm going to leave a comment here that return here after setting up local languages, basically a response to myself. And I also have a Python library called bookmarks that I can use to basically bookmark this part. So it has stored it. It's a VS Code extension. You can also put it in your VS Code. It's going to bookmark this so that I can come here easily later. And then once that is set up, I also want to, set up another place to get a translated response. I'm also going to bookmark this because once again, I'm going to need it later. So I'm going to uh, click here. I'm going to add a bookmark, and this is done. So once this is done, we are basically done with this place. We return here. We are done with the GPT model script, and now we need to create the translation script, right? Because we are going to be translating. Now, before we do that, since translation is going to be a function of our app, right? We are going to go inside the app and create a script that will be called translation. Now, what that script is going to be doing is that it is going to be connecting to the speech API, which I showed earlier, and it is going to fetch the languages that are available, right? And those languages are now going to be translated. They are going to be used to translate the text that are generated by our GPT model. So we cannot translate unless we connect to speech, which is what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to once again be importing. Sorry, oh, okay, I've not created the scripts, right? I'm going to create a script. I'm going to call the scripts translation because it is going to be connecting us to the API that is going to be doing the translation for us. I want to import OS. Sorry. I want to also import speech. Speech is the library we are going to be using. And I want to import from speech. Okay. From speech, I want to import speech, which is the class that we need for our work, right? And then I also want to load the virtual environment because I'm going to need the API keys to connect to the speech API. So I'm going to say from .env, we are going to load .env, the function that we defined, that we created earlier. Autocomplete wants to just bring the function here, which is fine with me. And then we are going to be getting using our speech API key, right? We need the speech API key, which we are going to be fetching from the virtual environment. This has been auto-completed. I can continue. And I'm going to now initiate the speech client. Of course, you can see autocomplete is also trying to do that for me, but I'm going to do that by myself. Client equal, I'm going to start by saying the client is null, so that if speech is not functioning at any moment, we are able to, fetch, we are going to get an error that says, this is why the speech is not connecting, or this is why the app, the translation is not working, and it's not going to just break our code, right? So I'm going to say if the API key exists, if speech API key, we are going to try to connect to the, we are going to try to connect to the speech client. And if I'm going to also get this, that speech client initialized successfully. We basically want this to, once again, we want to make sure, excuse me, we want to make sure that our script is working as necessary, right? So if this try and accept block, of course, we are all used to it, and we want to make sure that if we cannot connect to the speech client, we are getting an error that there was an error initializing this. That way we can know where to, debug the issues, right? And then I'm going to close with this with client equal to none, so that once again, if it does not work, I'm going to just get the original text returned to me, right? So if this does not work, you remember we said we started with an if block to test the connection, and we now also want to print our error if it does not work, right? And we also want to end with client equal to none, so that we get the text back whenever we need it. This way, we have created the script that is going to be directly connecting to the speech API, and then we can now use it in our model. Before we finish this, I'm going to, in the backend, I'm going to basically create, okay, let's see the next step. Um, The next step, okay, I'm just going to return to the translate so that you guys are able to logically follow what I'm doing. I'm going to come here, and in the translate, I'm going to just put a note here that this place is supposed to guide this script guides the models to translate using the speech API. Remember, if you want to make your code readable, you need to put a lot of comments so that people are able to, read and understand what is going to be going on. So it's going to provide translation functionality, basically functionality using the speech API. So it's going to, we can also say it's going to support, it's going to support English, Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo so that everybody, knows what is also going on in the script. And then we are also going to now be connecting from our translation and bringing the speech translate function, which we define inside the translation app. Um, we just, sorry, in the translation app, we only connected the speech. We did not actually work to create the translation function itself. So I'm going to be defining a function called speech translate. And what it is going to do is it's going to get the text, the target language, and the source language, because we need to know the source language we are passing to it. And of course, we are going to be using English. And once again, autocomplete has done a lot of carrying here. But basically, if client is not, we want to return that client is not initialized, right? We mentioned that earlier. And also, we are trying to connect, right? So we are saying client dot text dot translate so that it's going to work with the text that we put for it. We are going to break this down so that you guys are able to read it later. We want text, we want the source to be the source language. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to edit this part so that it works with the parameters that we set for the model. So source is source language, and the target is the target language. Remember, we want to set this right, and then I'm going to delete the extra text in front, and I'm going to close this, so that way you are able to basically read this and know what is going on in the code base. Then the next part is going to return the translation dot text. So it's going to fetch and work directly with the function to get the text. And it is going to, and then we are using try and accept block, because instead of just running your code directly, try and accept blocks help you to get where the error is in case you need to debug anything, right? So after that, we have exception is translation error, or let's say speech translation error, so that we know the error is from speech, which is the what this file is doing. And then we are not returning none, we are returning the text that is translated, right? And we are done, right? So if this does not work, it's going to say there's an error with the translation API, and it's going to return the text in the source language, which is the English language, right? That way, we are able to debug, and we are able to know where to go whenever anything is not working as we expect it to. Then we can now go back to the translate function, and from here we can now call the speech translate function that we just defined, right? And I am going to call it, and I want to confirm this is saved. I can do that by closing all the saved file. Every file is saved. Of course, you want to always save your file so that you don't lose your precious work. And then after that, I want to now define the translate function that we've been talking about, so that we are able to uh, work with the different local languages, right? And the first thing we are going to do here is we are going to create a dictionary of languages, so that we know we are passing to the model the right language, right? So we see English is English, Yoruba is Yoruba, Igbo is Igbo, and the others are as they are all expected to be. And once we have done this, we can now have a function that is getting the actual language. So I'm going to define a function called get language code, and it is basically get language code. It is going to be string. It is going to be getting the language as string, and it is going to get and return a string language. So, okay, I've mistakenly initialized this. I'm going to close it. And then, basically, this is, um, this is basically doing what is called it is basically creating documentation for us so that whenever anybody is once again going through the code, they can know what the function is all about, what it takes as arguments, what it returns when you run it, and all of that, right? So now, before I return anything, I want to once again put uh, if an except, sorry, a try and accept block so that I'm able to, debug again. And I want you to get that from this code as part of what you learn, because it is very, very important that you know where the issue is so that you're able to debug as necessary. So after that, I'm going to define the language code. So if language code is equals to en, we want to basically initialize the uh, text, and basically okay, this, sorry, I mistakenly once again brought the zoom control panel, which has been a chink in my armor this evening. So if the sorry, oh, I may have, okay, yeah, we are basically doing get language code is going to get the language code. And what it is going to be doing is basically if the language is not inside the language code, is going to raise an error that language is not supported, basically. And after that, it is going to return the language codes that are available. That is what that function is supposed to be doing. Now, another function is going to be translate text. And what the translate text is going to be doing is what I was basically working on earlier. It's going to get the language code, and it is going to do the translation for us. So I am going to delete all this so that I have a clean working place. It's going to take the text, it's going to get the target language, which of course we have put here as a parameter. And the target language is always English because that's what the model is going to be returning. And I'm going to end this here and remove all of this. And then I'm going to also put another doc string to say that this is, I'm going to say this is a function that helps you to basically translate your text using the speech API. It takes all of this. We can put, sorry, we put args, and this, I'll let this complete it so that I'm going to save some time. These are the arguments, and it returns the translated text, right? After that, I'm now going to complete my code. And if the language code is English, you want to return the text. And then once we return the text, we want to now do a try and accept block once again to make sure that uh, it is returning the necessary code base. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to click away so that my autocomplete will rest. We want to try this. We want to try this. We want to try to use the speech translate. Don't forget, the speech translate is a function that we inherited from the translation.py. And we want to create we want to use the speech translate to just translate the text, right? And it is going to take the text that we get and the target language. And then we are going to create the except block. And the exception is going to just basically print, excuse me, it's going to print for us that translation error, and it's going to return the code, and then it will return the original text just the way it is supposed to be. So once I have saved that, we are done with this script. And what I'll try and give us a recap of what we have achieved so far. We have basically started the project. We created some functions to help us, and we call them helper functions. We also created a GPT connector that is going to connect us to the GPT-4o model that we are using. And then we create a translation application that is going to basically connect us to speech. And we also created a translate.py function that is going to be doing the translation, just as GPT model is going to be synthesizing the information that we are getting. So once we are done with this, we can easily now move to creating the Pinecone agent, which is once again the library that is hosting our vector DB. It is the app that is hosting our vector DB, don't forget, we are using this as the knowledge source, right? We are using this as the knowledge source. And this is the knowledge source. So I'm connecting to this via API to be able to use it in the application. So in order to ensure I am able to connect to this, I'm going to create a Pinecone API inside the backend, right? And what it is going to do, the same way we're able to connect directly with ChatGPT, the GPT model, and connect with the speech model for translation, we're also going to be connecting directly with the Pinecone API so that we are able to, use retrieval augmented generation, which is called RAG, right? And what RAG does for us, as everybody knows, is it lets us use external information source to fine-tune our models, right? So with this, I'm going to say from Pinecone import Pinecone the function, right? Import Pinecone the class, sorry. And once we do that, we also need the environment variable. So I'm going to import the OS so that we can connect to this and to the environment variable that we defined earlier. And then I'm going to define a class called Pinecone client. And what it is going to be doing is going to be connecting, is basically going to be connecting to the, oh, is going hide floating panel. It's basically going to be connect, it's going to take self and it's going to handle the connection to the Pinecone API. So with this, we have defined the self parameter and we can now define the API key, but we want to be using self.api key so that you don't run into any issue. So self.api key equal to os.get environment, and we are calling the Pinecone API key. So autocorrect wants to do that. So I'm just going to let it, do everything that is necessary. And expected parameter name, right? So we are also going to self.api key. So Pinecone connection requires you to use the API key, the index, the PC, that's the client, and also the index, right? You can read more on that later from the Pinecone documentation, but I'm going to change this to index host so that you can call the index host and not the environment. Because I have named the environment variable that we are using, I have named it the index host. And then we are also, okay, so I'm just going to remove this so that I have a clean. So, no. I want to define everything by myself. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this so that the error will go away. And I'm going to close this. And then I want self dot. So we have the index host, we have the index key, we have the name. So I'm just going to leave this as index, and I'm going to just edit what this guy has given me, the autocorrect. So self dot pinecone client equal to Pinecone, which is the class we imported earlier, and API key is equals to API key. And I'm going to be removing the environment so that I can directly use what I have defined in the environment variable. So which is the self.index, which is self.pc, which we are basically telling the Pinecone client to fetch what we have inside the environment variable. And I want this parameter to be host equal to so that we don't run into issues later. And once that is done, I'm going to be, wait, I don't need this yet. And then I don't need this comma. I don't need this comma that happened earlier. So we are going to also be defining the search function, because don't forget that the search is what we are doing, and search is going to fetch from self, is going to get the query from from the that's the input from the client from the users of the application that we are building. We are going to set a top K of 3 because we just want we don't want to unnecessarily increase the what's it called now? The compute that is going to be used. The namespace is going to be the default namespace, and it's going to return I've allowed autocomplete to, complete as I don't want again. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to let this return self.index. I'm sure we are all familiar with index, and with index you can do search, and with that, we want the namespace. We want to basically inherit everything we have done earlier. Namespace, we want to also set the query. And the query is basically inputs. We are going to basically define it as a dictionary here and say input, and we are going to use text. Okay, input. We are going to have text that is going to be fetched from the user query. So I'm going to do this, and I'm also going to pass the top K so that we don't have any issue later. Top K equals to top K, and I have to put this here. I'm going basically just going to accept this, and that way we have, oh, I did not close this particular dictionary before I opened this other one. And I'm going to accept the autocomplete so that I can do this. And then I'm going to close the stuff from earlier. And also, I need to set another parameter here called fields. And fields is basically just going to take the source that we just mentioned, which is the user query, and it's also going to take the text which we just defined in a dictionary from the query. So this is search namespace. This is this is closed now, and then we don't have any error here. Okay, oh, okay. I need to also like I said, this is supposed to be a dictionary, not this, and then this will be done, and I don't have any error again. So basically, what this script is doing is it is connecting directly to the Pinecone API. And once we connect to the Pinecone API, we can directly use RAG, right? So I am going to create another script that is going to be called RAG. And here I am going to say we are going to use all the apps that we've been building from earlier. So we are going to be using the Pinecone client, which we just worked on. We are going to be bringing the Pinecone client, and then from models, we are going to be bringing the generate, and then we want to define the function that is actually going to create the RAG pipeline. And the RAG pipeline is going to be taking user query. I don't want autocomplete to autocomplete anything this time around. And I'll close the brackets here, and I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to connect to the Pinecone client. So Pinecone client equal to Pinecone client, retrieved information equals to Pinecone client dot search, and it's going to just search the user query. So we've set the top K already, so I don't need to reset it. And we are also going to now return the ChatGPT generates and user query, right? So don't forget that we created the ChatGPT generate earlier from the GPT model script. And with that, we are going to be calling GPT query the user's question, and we are also going to be getting the string of the retrieved information. So I'm going to be closing this, and I am going to be saving this. So like this, we have created the RAG pipeline, right? The RAG pipeline is you get the user query, we pass it to the Pinecone client, we get the user query, we pass it to the Pinecone client. The Pinecone client is going to conduct a search, right? The Pinecone client is going to conduct a search like we did here, right? So it's going to conduct a search of the data of the vector database, right? And bring the relevant information, which I showed at the beginning of this when we are going through the notebook of the paper we are working with, right? And after the information is fetched, we are going to pass it as they retrieve the information. We are going to be passing it directly to the ChatGPT generate. And what it is going to be doing is what we talked about. It is going to be what synthesizing the the entire text for us. I'm sure we are getting close to the end of this. So the next thing is, remember we bookmarked some stuff earlier that we actually need to return to GPT model, and we need to complete it so that it's able to use the necessary information, right? Yeah, so the first one is the local language code, which we defined from the uh, translate part. So we are going to be bringing it here. I'm going to be importing the module from models.translate where we kept it earlier. So from models.translate, we want to import the translate text, which is the function we used earlier. And we also want to bring in the language codes, right? Which, once again, I can open it here and you can see this is the translate text function and this is the language codes, because we need to pass them to our GPT model. So once I've imported it, I'm going to be using it here to make sure that I'm going to be using it inside the body of the text to make sure that the returned response from the ChatGPT follows the language that we want it to be, right? So this is English. How did we define it inside the translate function? We called it the English language. We called it EL. So everything works as we want it. Everything is just as we want it to be. So I'm going to keep that, and then I'm going to keep that, and then I'm going to go to the translated response, which we basically just finished from the other pipeline. I'm going to also bring it here. So it's going to be translated response equals to translate text, get the GPT response, and also get the final language code, which of course I'm going to be passing it as the final language code that we find, so that there is no issue with what we have said. And now we are going to be returning the translated response, right? And then we save this, and like that, we have built the model. We have ensured that it can do translation. Now, what we have not done is the chat part, because you also need to be able to chat with the system, right? Because it's going to be a chat system at the end of the day, so that people can ask their question and they can get responses. So I'm going to put the script that is going to be doing that. I'm going to keep it here, chat.py, and it's going to just be chat with bots, right? So that we can allow people to chat and they can send their user query they can send in their user query and they can get the target language, right? So target lang, and then we can define this function, and we can say response equals to RAG pipeline, the user query. We can say lang code is equal, sorry, it's supposed to be language code, right? Because we want to make sure that the language that is once again returned follows the language that we have once again defined inside the function, inside the translate.py script, so that users don't run into issues when they are trying to, use the bot. So it's going to be returning the translated text, and the language that is going to be returned is the language that is defined, right? Now, this, of course, wants us to bring the RAG pipeline. So I'm going to be bringing the RAG pipeline from the backend, and I'm also going to be bringing the translate and all those things from the allocation. I'm also going to be, okay, there is an issue here, so I'm going to save this, and once I save it, .backend.rag is there. Did I save it? Saved. So I'm going to save. I'm going to close all saves so that I can, reach out to the right places. And the RAG pipeline is from RAG pipeline. Translate text is from translate text, and language code is from language code. So I'm going to save this. And I'm going to leave it as that. Utils to your chat, utils dot no, translation is not inside utils. Translation is inside our app. So I'm going to leave it there and then it's going to fetch it from there and then there is no error again. So with that, I believe we have built all the moving part of the code base. We now need to build our Streamlit application, which is going to be the direct which is basically going to be the bring all the code base directly together. Because we all know Streamlit is going to take a lot of time and we don't have much time again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring in the code from here. I'm going to bring this here and I'm going to keep it inside here. So I'm going to replace it, and with that, we are going to have the entire Streamlit application here. So I know I just imported something, but what I want to do is I want to make sure that everything here works and are where they are supposed to be. And also, I want to make sure that you guys understand what you are going to be seeing when we run the application, right? So I'm going to say, we are importing Streamlit, we are bringing the environment variables, we are also bringing the chat with port that we just finished now, which is this chat with port. And then we are now setting the configuration for Streamlit. Oh, excuse me, I didn't realize my laptop was not plugged, so I'm just going to plug in my laptop. Right, and then we don't need to okay, what's the issue? Okay, sorry. Please give me a moment. Let me make sure my laptop is well plugged and it does not go off. Okay. Sorry, I am back. Please confirm you can hear me, Benedict. I think I disrupted my network for a bit and I am back now.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, okay, good. And confirm you can also see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, good, good, good. Thank you. So let me hide this for now. And I am going to continue working. Well, where I stopped was I was trying to walk you guys through what you are going to be seeing. We are going to be having a text area where you can enter your medical query, and then there's a button that sends the query, and then there is a button, and then there is a function that basically lets the LLM generate the response. And after that, we can see that there's another box that basically gets the LLM output, and then there's a button that you can use to regenerate the output, right? And then after you send the query, of course, the query is going to go to chat with bot that is going to run it for us. And we're also going to see the session states. We're also going to be seeing the LLM response in the box. There is, if you click regenerate, there is a explainer that is going to say you are regenerating. And from the translation, there is a question that you want to translate. And if you click yes, you are going to be selecting the language you want to translate into. And after you do that, the translation will run, right? And once the translation run, you are going to, once you click the get translation, you are going to, the translation is going to be done, and then you get the translated information. we are going to get it inside the text area for the translated drug information. And basically, the other is just a bunch of UI replacements, and we can also regenerate the translation if necessary. So I believe we are done developing the app now. So let's see if our app runs. Right? I hope you are not as nervous. After you have cooked for a while, you always want the application to run smoothly. So I'm going to use UV once again. UV run streamlit main.py. And this is the moment of truth. We are going to see if the application runs without any issue. Remember, if you are running the application, you want to ensure that your virtual environment is activated, and that is currently done. And the app is running, the app is loading right now. And as we can all see, it's loading, it's loading. Hopefully, we don't run into any issue. Then we ran into an issue from here. The RAG pipeline is basically giving us an error. So I'm going to attempted relative import from the on top level, and the issue is from the rag.py, right? So in the rag.py, I have attempted to basically go from the original direction. I'm just going to stay inside instead of running directly from my laptops like C users, I have my desktop and all those things. I'll just stay within the project directory, which is where the issue is from. And once I've saved, I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to rerun the app again, and let's see if we have another issue. Of course, bugs are a big part of coding, and we are all used to them by now. So whatever issue comes up, we just want to ensure we solve it, and want to ensure that our app is running as we want it to. So let's see. So your Streamlit app is running now. Of course, it is loading. Okay, it's taking a bit of time since this is the first time we are running the application. Let's be a bit patient. Okay, there's another issue, and I'm going to just check it from here, saying cannot import translate text from app.translation, and that is from chat.py. So I'm going to go into chat.py and see what the issue is from backend.rag. It's saying it cannot bring translate text. So I'm going to go to translation and see what the name of uh, the stuff is. And as you can see, translate text from inside translate text from app.translation. So app.translation, this is app.translation. I want to bring in. Okay, so as you can see, the function it is trying to get is not here, but let us check the translate, and we can see that the translate text is actually not translation, it is inside the models.translate. So I'm going to go back to chat, and I'm going to make the correction. So we want it to be from models.translate, and then we can get this. And then once I save, I'm going to stop the Streamlit app, and I'm going to run it again. And hopefully we don't have another bug in our code. So I can close the other tabs that were open. I can close them and see if our app works now. Oh, welcome to Drug Info. Oh my God, our app is up and running. We did not run into any issue. As you can see, our speech client initialized correctly, and we can now interact with this, right? So let me know the first question you would like to ask the model. For me, I want to know the dose of paracetamol because, of course, paracetamol a is a drug we're all familiar with, and we all know the dose. So what is the dosage of paracetamol for an adult? I am following the chat on YouTube, so you guys can also drop your questions. Let us test the model we have built, right? So what is the dose of paracetamol for adults? So I'm going to, send the query, and let's see, generating response. And don't forget, the generation is basically going to do a semantic search inside our vector database and pass the query and the response it fetches from the query database, pass it directly to the large language model, which is now going to synthesize it into smooth language for us. And with that, we are able to completely read the response instead of going through a bunch of jargon like I showed us earlier. So let's see. Let's hope this is going to work smoothly. There is no error yet. We are just waiting for the translation to be done. And we did not get a response. Of course, there's a bug somewhere else. Let's go here and see where the bug is from. Say translate text got an unexpected keyword argument, final lang code. So I'm going to go into the um, chart. I think it is still the GPT model.py now. I'm going to go into the GPT model.py and squash this new bug that we have encountered, right? So it's saying, let's say, let me go through the error again. It's saying translate text got an unexpected keyword final lang code. So translate text final lang got en, and it is saying there is a final lang code that is not supposed to be there. So code, because it is not defined. So, but it is actually defined and it is fetching it directly from languages, right? So I can do this and find where the issue is from. Language en, nothing. So we actually shouldn't run into any issue here. So in order to save time, I'm going to try and see if I can quickly run this GPT response, final language code, and a final lang English en. What happens if I just remove this? Okay, I have seen where the issue is. What we defined for translate text, if we go into the translate.py, what the parameter is actually target language code, not final language code. I think that is the bug. We have identified the bug. I'm going to go into the GPT models and I'm going to correct this. So this is the parameter it is expecting, not the final language code. And with that solved, I'm going to close or saved. So to ensure that everything is basically saved, I've squashed this new bug. I'm going to now run the app all over again. And hopefully this time around, we do not run into any new bug. So guys, if you remember earlier, I said we are going to be building, we are now testing to see that it works, right? So once again, we want to ask for the dose of paracetamol. What is the dose of paracetamol? Paracetamol for an adult. And with this, I'm going to copy and store that for later, and then we are going to let it generate. Hopefully, we do not run into another bug. I think I've spent enough time squashing bugs. So of course, those happen when you use stuff. Oh, we got a response. We got a response. The dose of paracetamol for an adult when treating mild to moderate pain or pyrexia. Pyrexia is basically the medical term for fever, right? It's typically 0.5 to 1 gram, which is 500 milligram. And it can be repeated every 4 to 6 hours. As a pharmacist, I can tell you this is correct with a maximum of 4 grams daily, and if you have any overdosage, you want to contact your doctor, or you also want to, see the information that is there. So this is directly from MDEX, right? We've seen that this is from MDEX. And would you all like to translate to a Nigerian language? Yes, of course, you want to try out the translation part. I am Yoruba, so I'm going to go to with a language I can easily follow that. Is it correct or not? And then I am going to click Yoruba and get translation. And there is an issue with our translate because it is returning English, right? Translation or error speech object is not callable, right? So we are going to go back into our speech model, which is going to either be inside the translate or oh, okay, it is going to be inside translation, and we are going to see what the error is, right? So inside translation, we brought speech from the speech library, and we passed in the API key, which we of course fetched, and we know that the API key worked because the clients initially initialized successfully. And then inside the speech translate, we raised the value error. So I do not think the issue is from here. So I'm going to basically, if client is none, want to return text, want to save this. So that way we are not directly doing this. And then we want to bring the try and accept block outside of the return part so that it stays within that. And then, so we also want to delete the, we want to, there's, we did an indentation error here. So we want to basically correct that. So we want to correct that here too. We want to make the correction here too. And I think this is, oh, okay. Excuse me. So we want to correct this. If this is correct, the return is supposed to be here, and that way that is correct. Um, let's see. Where did we use translate again? See, control back tick. Where is the error from? Translation error. Speech object is not callable. So see, this is this. It did not call speech from anywhere. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to do this again. So once again, I'll try to see if the error has been solved. While this is loading, I want to quickly change my network so that I'm able to switch to a better network, please. Hey, hello, Benedict. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to resume sharing my screen again. Sorry, I was switching my network. Okay, so I'm going to run this now. We just finished squashing a bug, and hopefully we can see this. Okay. Um, oh, okay. The fix had some new packages necessary. So let's see. Okay. I can close all this former stuff that were open. Let's see, we are deploying speech client successfully initialized. Earlier we searched for what is the dose of paracetamol, so we are going to also use this, and we are going to be sending the query. And let's see. Okay, so we got the response. We can now translate the response into Yoruba. I use get translation. Let's see. Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, our app is working. We can see Fun Agbalagba, right? For adults, paracetamol can be administered orally or rectally for mild to moderate pain or pyrexia. So Fun Agbalagba, a lè fi paracetamol mu ní ẹnu tàbí ní ikùn rọ fún ìrora tó rọra díẹ̀ tí tí ó rọrùn tàbí fún ibà. Like I said, fever is pyrexia, and the model has correctly translated pyrexia to fever, which is ibà. Then ìwọ̀n fún àgbà ní 0.5 sí 1 gram, right? 1 gram. And ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the model works and the translation is basically translating. I know there will be some of us that will be Igbo, so let me see. Let's test the Igbo translation and let's see if he also translates well. Well, I cannot read Igbo, but I know what I'm saying resembles Igbo language. And basically, we have built an AI that can fetch the right information from a medical book and translate it into we have built an AI project that can fetch the right information about a query from a medical book and also translate it to longer languages for us. So what again, we have successfully run the app. I'm going to make sure everything is saved. Our git ignore is working as git ignore. And I can now push it directly to GitHub so that you guys can, check it out later. So I want to see git remote, okay, git remote v to check the repository. Okay. So want git init reinitialized git remote v. This is not connecting to the right git environment. So I'm going to do git clone like we did earlier. I'm going to go back to the masterclass and do git clone. Already exists. So git pull. Let's see. There is no current branch that is being tracked. Our git setup is misbehaving. Honestly, I can't see any git initialized here, so maybe I want to do that. There's no tracking. So it's saying git pull. So I'll just say git pull. I want to pull the remote. Remote is the okay. Let me use git clone. And then after that, I'm going to do that. Sorry, you need to hide this. I'm going to go to home. I want to fetch the repository again so that I can just pull directly from it. So I'm going to do here. I'm going to do our repository that we created earlier. This is it. I can copy this and can do git clone. Okay, git pull remote. The remote is this, and branch is main. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do add main. I think is this the right code? Yeah. Sorry, I seem to be having a bit of an issue. Let's see if I can open chat and just ask it so that we can save some time. I can basically just Google this and see what is going on. Fatal, so it's going to see this ls remote, this. So master main. So saying to do this, going to do this. Saying already there's already a repository there, so we need to fetch. Okay, so I'm going to git clone. I'm going to do this here. Uh, Okay, I don't want to clone into the current directly. If it's empty, okay, let me just set, let's see, see, it removes me. That means this is not set. So I want the push default origin star. Okay. I don't want to just spend too much time unnecessarily doing this. So I'm going to basically um fetch the repo into a new folder and move the entire directory into it. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Yeah. So this is the new repo and everything is there now. So git see git pull still not working for some very weird reason. Okay, upstream. So can do this. Oh, this is literally because I'm rushing. I will have come down to, you know. Okay, so basically I'm going to just open another folder and initialize the project into it so that we can take 3MTT masterclass, new folder, and I'm going to call the folder 3MTT. I'm going to connect to it, and after that, yep, I'm going to I can close this and then I can git git clone git clone. Yep, I have to clone this here, and then inside the file directory, I'm just going to go to the I'm going to go here and pick the project from where it was just. Yeah, I'm going to copy all of this, okay, Control C, and I'm going to put it inside the new directory so that we can have our new project and we can continue our work. Yeah, give it a few minutes because it's going to have to copy the entire virtual environment so that we don't have to start taking time to install everything all over. And the files are coming, and once they come, we are going to be able to push everything to GitHub so that everybody on the call can go to the repository later and raise the project and also go through and study out what we have done. So sorry, we need to give this a couple of minutes to complete the copying. Okay, so in the meantime, I also planned, I don't know if we have much time. Benedict, do we have time?
No, we
Hello?
don't have at all. Ahmad, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
we don't have at all. Like we've passed the end
Okay, okay,
time
okay,
of
okay.
this class. Yeah.
Okay, that's clear, that's clear. So, to everybody on the call, I am going to complete the entire repository and make sure it is available on GitHub. And I am also going to make sure that I build another. I know this is what we currently have is a Streamlit application. I'm also going to build a how do you call it now? I'm also going to build a fast API application and make it available on the repository so that you're able to clone it and you're able to test the app by yourself. So please, to Benedict, please give us a couple of time so that I can deploy this to GitHub and everybody on the call can access it after the call, which is what I'm trying to do now. But of course, we all know, like we all saw earlier when we ran it, the application, we can all see that it worked perfectly and it is also accessible to us. We can ask questions and all of that. So I'm going to basically show that now as we end the class. I'm going to show the GitHub. I'm also going to show the GitHub repo. I'm sure Benedict and the other coordinators will ensure that everyone on the call have access to the repository by sharing the repository link, and you guys can go there and basically go through the entire work, and you can be able to clone it and build it in your own time, and also spend some time to understand how you can build Python projects by basically connecting different Python scripts to each other. Now, for in case you do not understand what we have done, we have basically converted a notebook from this particular paper, this retrieval augmented generation for local languages. We have basically converted into a Python application, a Python project, a Python app that you can actually build, deploy, and use it by yourself. So to everyone on the call, okay, so to everyone on the call, I am basically going to rerun the app with UV now so that we can interact with it one more time before we go. Oh, okay, I need to activate the environment, so I'm going to do dot and activate the virtual environment. Is the virtual environment there? Yep. Script activate. Okay, I'm going to clear this. CD into okay, 3MTT Masterclass, and then I'm going to activate the virtual environment that is there, and then I'm going to run the app, and that way, once again, we can see earlier someone said someone sent a question that we can say, that we can ask, that recommend an antibiotic for severe cough, right? So we are going to try that out now, and we are going to see the response. Once again, the application will be pushed directly to GitHub so that everyone on the call can interact with it. So recommend an antibiotics. Okay, let's rephrase that better. What antibiotics will be suitable for chronic cough that has proved resistant, that has not been dispelled by cough syrup. So let's send the query and let's wait for it to generate a response. And please, if you have any question, you can drop it in chat. I'm going to answer one or two questions before we go. So let's see. The provided information does not mention specific antibiotic for chronic cough, but like I said, there are so many. It's saying that in the database there are so many various cough syrups like Coscopine. For chronic cough not resolved, consult a professional. Consult an healthcare professional, which is the right information that you typically expect from a chatbot, because you don't want chatbots recommending drugs like antibiotics, right? I actually picked that particular response to show that you cannot immediately ask large language models to recommend antibiotics or some other drugs for you. It can only give you information that has been trained with, and it will also try very, very strictly to not go or break any of the boundaries that has been created for it. So another question asked that we that does anyone realize that we're only focusing on the major languages Wazobia? Once again, we don't have enough time. This is Hausa now. We don't have enough time for to go through all Nigerian languages. Nigeria has over 200 50 languages, right? And the 250 languages is not all of them that are digitized. So the available models that we are working with this evening are the major ones. The model or the major languages, which is Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. Another question is asking the link to the repository. I'm going to put it up now. I've not pushed all the code directly to it, but I'm going to put it up now so that we can all see it and we can all, check it out and we can all, go through the project and see what is necessary, what we can learn from it. So,
Hello?
so I'm going to pull up this now. I'm going to increase the size. So please, if you want to take a screenshot, if you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot. I'm increasing this is the link to the repo. Got it. It is always going to be available openly. So you can always use, it's always going to be available for you. This is the link to the repo. Please confirm. You can also see the link to the repo and confirm that you can access the repo and it is open and accessible.
Hello? Mr. Ahmad.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
All right, so yeah, so because of time, we won't be taking any question because of our time is already past 7.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ahmad. Thank you very much for the wonderful lessons. As in from the comment section, I was seeing that a lot of people, were excited, I believe they were screaming wherever they were because of your um you know, an excellent delivery of this class. Thank you very much. All right, so like Mr. Ahmad said, we'll be dropping the repo, right, for us to access what he has done after the call. And for those asking if they can have access to this video, of course, it's on YouTube, right? You can always go back and listen again. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Mr. Ahmad, once again.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have been able to gain one or two things from this session.
Yeah,
Enjoy the
Mr.
rest of the
Ahmad, would you
evening.
like to drop your uh, LinkedIn profile so that people can connect with you?
Okay, so I guess I can quickly I don't know, share the screen so that anybody that watches the recording later can go and see this. My LinkedIn profile is Ahmed Ibrahim Ismail. I'm just going to open it now so that you can see. And you can also check it out after the call. So, okay. Okay, this is my LinkedIn profile. You can check it out. You can reach out. You can send a connection request so that I can answer any question you have. Hopefully, I'm able to go through everything. Thank you, Benedict.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ahmad. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we've come to the end. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you once again. All right, have a nice day. Bye. Mr. Ahmad, thank you once again.